I'm back. You don't have to look at my mug anymore. I'm going to concentrate on this little area right here. And basically what I use for this is I'll use a good old Sharpie marker, and this helps me place that rivet where I want it. And if you've noticed, as you look around at these rivets, they're not exactly placed symmetrical. I have 4 rivets here, I have 4 on the back side here. Basically I just went in and I looked and said, okay, well I want this rivet in this area here, and I put a little black dot right in the center of that rivet, and I went through and I placed these rivets. I did the same over here, but I didn't take and measure each one of these things to try and figure out symmetrically on this side of the helmet where they would fall. The reason I did that was really basically because back when they used to do a lot of metal work, the guys would mark out where they wanted to put the rivets, and then they would come back in with a drill and they would drill a hole where that rivet went. Well, sometimes the drill would walk a little bit or the hole wouldn't go in correctly, and then when they punched the rivet in, it might move a little bit also. So the idea that I had here was to basically put them in somewhat symmetrical but not be exact as far as where they are. I think it gives a little more realism to the helmet. You can also see the patinas that I put in underneath these rivets. Might look like a little bit of weathering underneath, maybe some water ran off, that sort of thing on each one of these things here. If you look here, you have to kind of pre-plan what you're doing. This is the vent that will go on the top, and it'll go like right around in here. And what I do is I just held the vent where it's supposed to go, and I put the 2 little rivets up underneath here, and I also put a streak down underneath here. It's kind of planning ahead. Obviously I haven't primered these and bulldogged and put some adhesion promoter on these vents yet, but this is the next step in this. But I kind of planned ahead a little bit, and I took this patina and ran it from up underneath the vent and coming down. That way it kind of looks like maybe some weathering came up in the vent, blew back, came back out the top of the helmet. So what I'll do here is I'll see where this rivet is here, and I can see my tape. Oh, well, also what I pointed out is when I laid this tape in, I didn't make sure it was exactly on the body lines. I didn't make sure it was exactly in specific areas as far as like measuring and that sort of stuff. I just followed the body lines along to kind of make these separate panels. The reason I did that is a lot of times when they would do riveting jobs, the metal would come together, but you know, right in here this tape comes up a little bit and drops back down. Some people look at that and go, oh, you didn't get your tape straight. Well, I actually meant to do that a little bit just to kind of give it more of an organic look. Maybe they'd cut this metal here and they had to piece this metal together. As they're doing rivet work, what they're going to do is they're going to measure and they're going to cut and measure and cut and basically piece these panels together. So this kind of gives it more of an organic look. It's not, you know, nowadays everything's cut with CNC machines and everything's perfect, but back when this helmet was made, they didn't have those. So what I'm going to do here is I can see my tape here and I can see my tape line here. I can kind of see where that rivet is. I just want to pop a rivet in right here. So I'm just going to make a little dot. This rivet here is just underneath this one. I'm not going to measure it. I'm just going to go over here and I'm just going to make a dot right there. For this demonstration, I'm only going to do 2 of these rivets for you guys because you're going to get the idea real quick how they're done. And I don't want to bore you with doing rivets over and over and over and over and over again. I'm going to be using my MaxJet compressor for my water. You can kind of hear that thing in the background going off. Really quiet. The performance of that MaxJet is just, I can't even, you know, tell you. Once I got my hands on that, just the way it performs with the water airbrushes is just phenomenal. Well, I can work with this thing all day long. I don't get any water, any moisture. One thing I want to show you guys here is what I'll do is I'll have a water trap on the end here just as it comes out of the hose. You can pick these water traps up, Coast Airbrush. They're about, I believe they're about 20 bucks a piece or so. I have one on every single one of my hoses. I also have quick disconnects. We did have on the forum some people saying that their quick disconnects leaked and that sort of thing. These are Iwata brand quick disconnects. You can also get these over at Coast. These things, I've never had one leak. I've never had a problem with them. When I did ask the questions where they bought the quick disconnects, I got eBay and some other answers. If it doesn't have Iwata on the package, it probably isn't, and if you're buying things off of eBay, just buyer beware. Make sure that you know what you're getting ahead of time. Like I said, these things don't leak. I have them on every single one of my airbrushes. I can pop one airbrush. I can go from this to my Micron or to my BCS or whatever it is that I need. I usually have maybe 2 hoses right now hooked up to the MaxJet, and I can just switch in between these airbrushes real quickly. So anyway, back to what we were doing here. Wicked Detail White and Wicked Detail Black in the little 1 ounce bottles, like I told you guys. Usually I'll start these out maybe mixing them 3 to 1. If I need to reduce a little bit more, I will, but I'm finding for the graphics that I'm doing on this, I'm not doing really fine lines. I'm not shooting it through a Micron. I don't really need to reduce it down. Reduce down before 9, 12 to 1, and just build up coats. The beauty of the Createx product is we can reduce it. We have the transparent base. Here we've got the 4004 transparent base for the auto air. I used this stuff when I did the actual silver. I shot the silver through the CS's. A lot of people think I'm crazy because the CS has a .35 needle nozzle set in there. What I want to teach you guys right now, and this is something that we'll get into later, and this group started a couple weeks ago. We're already up to over 700 members. There's a lot of work for me to maintain that. I don't mind doing it for you guys. As a matter of fact, I'm really enjoying it. There's a lot of great artists that are coming out, basically out of the woodwork I've never seen, never met before, and I've been doing this for a while. I'm glad we could funnel all this information to one place where people are using the Createx products, and there's a lot of knowledge that's floating around out there. What I did to be able to shoot the aluminum, which is the aluminum fine, auto air, it's 4101, aluminum base fine. These are your base metals. You have the aluminums, fine, medium, and coarse. You have gold. Those are your basic bases. There's other ones there that they've got, but these are the base ones that I use. I shoot the medium most of the time. I call it my bling. This stuff here, you would think that you wouldn't want to shoot this through a .35 needle nozzle setup. What I did was I reduced this with transparent base. Then I reduced that with the high performance reducer. What this does is, and I've explained this to a few people, is it takes your pigment to volume. The volume of pigment that you have in your paint is reduced because now you've added a transparent base to that, and once you mix that, you can understand where the aluminum is now thinner throughout that whole mix, which makes it a lot easier for it to come out of a smaller tipped airbrush. Now, I'm not saying that you want to load up a CS with aluminum base and completely base this out with like aluminum medium. It's not going to work. I use my miniguns for that. But for this particular helmet and for this particular look, I had that mix with the transparent base and the aluminum fine mixed, put into my airbrush, and then I also used the Wicked Detail Black. I had both of them loaded. Some of you guys are asking me, this is all kind of two-handed, and you can kind of see the weathering that's on that helmet, where the rivets are. But this was all sealer black when I started, and I got the aluminum and the black that you see now was just shot with 2 different airbrushes as I covered each one of these panels. I did each panel separately. I wanted to do each panel separately because each one I thought in my mind was a separate piece of metal. So I would do this panel here and I would weather this panel, not even thinking about this one. Then I would move to this one and start doing that one. It keeps you from being too uniform. If you just shoot the whole thing with silver, then you grab your black and you go back over that, you're going to find yourself getting too uniform. You don't want to do that. You just want to have this flow as you're going, and this panel is going to look different than this one. Maybe they put this panel on this helmet and a week later they put this panel on, or however it works. So one panel's older than one, maybe one's a different gauge of metal or something. I'm really trying to go for a realistic kind of look here. So what I've done here, we've marked this out. I'm going to shake up a little bit of this white, put that in one of my CSs. I hope I can do this. I'm running into the same problem you hear everybody else out there that does videos. They're shooting it, they're trying to get the camera angle right so you guys can see what I'm doing, but it's really not how I would normally shoot this in my studio when I'm shooting. So bear with me when I'm doing this, because the angles are a little different and hopefully the airbrushes cooperate with me and we can show you how I'm doing these things. Loaded up both the CSs, have them with the black and the white. Looks like they're shooting just fine. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come in first and I'm going to put in the crescents for the bottoms of these. What I want to do is I just want a crescent just underneath each one of these black dots. You don't have to be real exact with this. Like I said, we want more of an organic look to these things. So what we're trying to do here is we're just trying to drop in a little bit of white, and we want to drop it up underneath here. And you have to remember the size of the stencil you're going to use also. You don't want your stencil to completely cover the highlight that you're putting in here. So I'm going to make these a little bit, you're going to think, wow, that's really big. But when I do these, I'm going to be covering that with that stencil just a little bit, and I'll come down a little bit and I'll work my way up to that black dot that I've got there. I don't want these to be real bright. If they are, it's not a big deal. I'll show you guys how to knock those back in a second. With that done, there's your white crescents. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into my black. I'm going to lay the black crescents over the top. Hopefully you guys can see this okay. I'm using my hand here just to kind of keep this off. You notice I have my needle cap on here. I'm not doing any fine line work, so I just leave these on. Better safe than sorry, don't want to bend a needle. Got a few of them laying around, but I'd rather not use them. So then what we're going to do here is we're going to lay this over the top. There. Yeah, it got a little wet there, but that's okay. There you go. I can still see the black dots in here. I have no problem seeing those. We are using a high performance reducer on these with this. It's amazing how this stuff dries, how cooperative this stuff is when I'm working with it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this stencil and I'm just going to place this right over where that black dot is. Now I can see that Sharpie mark that's in there. Now what I'm doing is I'm going to pump this airbrush to fill this, but I'm also letting the air intermit in between the paint. So what it does is it dries that paint. So I'm not getting any paint blowing up underneath here or creep going down the bottom side there. I'm going to do the same here. Really not liking this here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back in and I'm going to kind of dress that up a little bit, I think, with a little bit of black. Just kind of blend that through. There. Like I said, it's a little bit harder to do when you're not looking right over the top of the helmet. I guess I better get used to this if I'm going to start shooting some videos for you guys. So now you've seen 3 of the steps. You've seen the white crescent, you've seen the black crescent, you've seen the base for the rivet set just solid. Now I'm going to come back in, grab my white. I'm going to lay this right over that little black rivet, and I'm just going to hit the top of those rivets, just like that. This one. you guys will hear that compressor going off, but I guarantee you it's a lot quieter than some of the stuff that I've worked with in the past. Now, most guys will stop right here. Most people will stop right here. They've got the highlights, they've got the metal highlights. What I don't like about these is the white will kind of overtake that black. So what happens is the white overspray will now come down and kind of cover that black area where you're trying to get the separation from the white crescent to the bottom of that rivet. So what I'll do is I'll come back in, I'll lay this right in here, and I will just dance that black around the bottom of it. Now you can see where I've got a little bit of separation here, and this is what really makes these rivets pop, because you're getting that separation between the bottom of that rivet and that highlight, and there you have it. Now what I'm going to do is, these are a little bright down the bottom. This is where the fun part comes in, all the freehand work. All you're going to do is come in here, you're going to lay a little bit of this in. You can see how that's now toned down that white that's underneath there. Do the same thing on this one. You know, pull back, get some dark spots. Start laying in some color here. You know, you want to lay in a little bit of color. Pull back, get some dark areas, get some light areas. I'll come across here. I'll lay this in like this. There you guys have it. There's some rivets. Really easy to do. Obviously, when you got a couple airbrushes loaded, it's going to go a lot faster. But that's basically how I'm going through this whole helmet and doing these rivets. I hope I've covered everything for you guys. I know that part of this went really quickly. I hope it was enough for you guys to get some information off of. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and leave them at the bottom of this. I'll be more than happy to answer them. Answering a lot of questions up there. I'm glad you guys are asking questions. I'm glad that you guys are participating in this group. Hopefully this video is going to help you guys. I know that some of you guys are, wow, I want to do that on one of my helmets. I hope you guys can see how this, the process that I'm doing these rivets with will kind of speed the process up, give you a patinaed look to these rivets. Like I said, you know, don't go in and place them exactly where. Just put a little dot, go in here, you know, and just have fun with it, you know. Place them where you want to place. If I wanted to lighten this little white area back up here, I could just come in with the airbrush and just lighten that up. Maybe drop a little more black. You know, they don't need to be uniform. They don't have to look exactly the same. You know, when rivets go into metal, they're going to do their own thing. They may dent the metal a little bit different. Actually, you're not supposed to dent the metal if you're a good riveter, but for this process, we want them to show that three-dimensional look. So hopefully this video helps you guys out. Any question about the Createx products that I've used, feel free to ask questions. You know, I'm more than happy to answer any questions you guys have. Like I said, I've gone through quite a bit here trying to, in the last few years, trying to figure this stuff out, and you know, just figured it was time to pay it forward and share the love and help you guys out. And hopefully you enjoyed this. Don't know how many of these videos I'm going to do, but if this helped any of you guys out, just leave a comment. I appreciate the feedback, and we will talk to you guys later. This is Brian with Rivet Graphics. Don't forget, Coast Airbrush, FBS tape. Those guys, you can't beat them for having supplies, and especially Coast. You know, there's nothing you can't find on Coast Airbrush that you guys won't need to do these projects that we're going to be doing on this forum. So, like I said, if you guys have any questions, leave them at the bottom. This is Brian with Rivet Graphics. Hope you enjoyed this, and I will talk to you guys later.